what I realized it was that it was not only important to sell a little baño sign, a toilet sign more, but also to give the business card and talk to the people because you never knew who would pick it.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Open Studio. Today I'm speaking with a truly special guest, is Gustavo Ferrari. Gustavo is a professional fileteador and sign painter from Buenos Aires, Argentina. He's also an artist, a historian who has been working in traditional Argentine fileteado and sign painting since 2001. Over the past decade, Gustavo has taken this unique visual language around the world. He has given workshop, lectures and demonstration at letterheads, meets, tango festivals and design events across the USA, Canada, Europe, Asia, and Latin America, visiting cities all across the globe. And today we will be talking about the craft, the cultural heritage, and what it means to keep a tradition alive through your work. So, Gustavo, welcome to the podcast. So happy to finally have you. How are you doing today?
Hello, thank you for inviting me. It's a real pleasure. And well, here we are. Super fine, early morning in Buenos Aires, drop the kids in the kindergarten, so we are free to talk for a while now.
Excellent, excellent. Yep. I see that you're in your studio. I visited you when I was in Argentina this past July, and you have this beautiful wall behind you with a showcase of your artwork. So let's start with that wall. Did you choose the pieces in that wall for some specific reason, or it's just a good portfolio of work that you like to use to show to clients?
No, it's mostly like a mixture because it's not only my work there. And we have a huge collection of old paintings from the old masters of the fileteado. So this wall, which for us is our main wall on the studio, we decided to have some of the works that I do for myself because 99% of what I paint is a commission. So only from time to time, I manage to have time to paint something for my own pleasure. So most of the time, those works ends up on these walls. Plus, it's the works I don't sell because I keep them with me because I like them till I get bored. And then we have a lot of artwork from the old masters and some artwork from my wife. Yeah, we work together with Nina. We share the studio. And she paints like oil painting and watercolor. So there's some of her work, some of mine, and some of the old traditional artwork from the fileteado history. So it's a nice mixture.
That's interesting because what I love about your background is that you study history. You're a historian, and you came into the world of sign painting through which door? How did you arrive to, from being surrounded by books to actually grabbing the brush and painting what you do nowadays?
I think it was quite unexpected at some points. Sometimes I like to say that it's like I feel like fileteado chose me rather than I chose the fileteado in a way, no? Because I always draw since I was a kid, like copying comic books in that style, like black and white, short brush, ink. And but I never took like proper art classes, only when I was 10 for a year or so. So during the high school, I was doing like signs for the students' union, for the protests and the different activities, etc. And then when I finished high school and I started the university, that was 2001, I was 18, 19 at that point, I thought about, okay, I will be reading the whole time, reading books like a bookworm in the libraries. And I said, okay, I want to do something artistic for real for the first time, like take a class or a workshop of something related with art. And I decided to do fileteado. It's like, I remember I was in between like screen printing or engraving or something like this and fileteado. And then I decided about fileteado because it's a style that is present, on the city. I always love things related with the old Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, let's do this fileteado. It was my first approach was actually like a 1 month workshop in the summer of 2001. But it was like a month before starting the university classes. And then the first semester, I did both, no? Going to university, and then once a week, I was taking classes with my teacher. And I slowly started to like it. And I was mostly attracted about the colors, the scrolls, the different decorative elements of the fileteado rather than the lettering itself. And I discovered, okay, if you do the filete, then you need also to do the letters. Okay, let's do it. But it was not my main goal or my main desire to learn. I was more about the dragons and the scrolls, etc. So after 1 year of taking classes, I studied with Alfredo Genovese, which is another main artist who's a big reference for the fileteado in the last 25, 30 years. And it was December 2001, and I remember Alfredo invited me to help him after taking classes for a year. So he said, okay, I have this work. We need to paint a cart, like the old-fashioned two-wheels carts, like a sulky. And he said, we have to paint this sulky. It's going to be in a warehouse in Villa Pueyrredón. I think I never have gone that far. I live in Almagro, so that's the opposite side of the city. And so we spent the whole day in this warehouse painting that cart. That was my first day of paid work in my life.
Amazing. That must have been super important for you, especially
Yeah.
when your master was like asking you specifically to help him, no?
Yeah, and it was something quite unexpected in a way,
Yeah.
no? And I remember, I think it was maybe Tuesday, Thursday, Tuesday or Wednesday, and I had a final exam at the university on Friday, no, because it was December. And I said, okay, I'm gonna go anyway and spend the day painting, and then I try to keep up with the study. And that was the 19th of December, 2001. So you can imagine, I came back home. My mother was quite pissed, saying, where were you? What happened? What's going on? I didn't know anything about you. And I asked my mother, what's happening? Is there anything's happening? She said, yeah. They're sacking the supermarkets. There is like, how do you call this?
Oh, the riot. Okay. Let's go back a few steps because I bet that a lot of people listening are wondering, like, first, what happened in the 19th of December of 2001 in Buenos Aires, Argentina?
Yeah,
And second, what the hell is Fileteado Porteño? So perhaps we can start there, like Fileteado Porteño. Why is called Porteño first, and what defines Fileteado as a way or as a form of art?
Okay, so the fileteado itself is an art form that combines decorative elements like scrollworks, dragons, flowers, flags, and some lettering too. It started as a decoration on the trail carts of the people who deliver milk, bread, wine, meat in the city of Buenos Aires at the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th. See, it was a decoration that was used on the carts. Then it moved on to trucks and buses. See, in most of the cases,
Just to clarify something that Buenos Aires is a city in Argentina that is sitting in the coast, so it has a port. It was the most important port back then, and therefore there was a lot of trading and a lot of commercial activity. And these carts were carrying the goods, right? The fruit, the meat, and all of that. Yeah.
see, they were carrying to the port, but they were also carrying to the local markets, no? Because each neighborhood had their own market. So the production came from the countryside to the main Abasto market, and there from the Abasto would go to smaller markets around the city. So all this movement of the goods were done with the carts in the beginning, and those carts were decorated with the fileteado. And so in the 20s, 30s, it was used as a decoration in trucks and buses. And then later, in the 70s, there was made the first exhibition in an art gallery because the fileteadores would only paint in the transportation. So then in 1970, there was a research made by a couple of artists, and they organized the first exhibition in an art gallery. So after that, which was the 14th of September 1970, which nowadays is celebrated as the Day of Fileteado. So after that, it started the whole contemporary history of Fileteado. So whatever we do nowadays, the signs, painting shop windows, bigger signs for shops, murals, painting different kind of objects, doing works for graphic industry like covers of at that time long plays, nowadays Spotify covers, covers of books, etc. All that started for the Fileteado in 1970. Before that, it was only a work done in the transportation. So the style of the Fileteado, it became, with time, part of the visual identity of Buenos Aires. So the word Fileteado itself, it came from a Latin word, which is filum fili. We all studied Latin, which means,
Yeah.
no? So it means line. And
Yeah.
so it's in the sense of a decorative line, no? Like a painted line that decorates. And then porteño is because that's the way we call ourselves, the inhabitants of the city of Buenos Aires. You see?
In the port, right? And it's interesting because you see Fileteado Porteño in Buenos Aires often, but however, it's now it now has been has remained as an art form, and it's interesting to see what their origins were because it was much more popular use that they used to have of fileteado. You will see it on buses and on carts and on very popular modes, ways of transportation. And nowadays you see it in like the traditional cafes or the traditional restaurants, and it has become in a way more an art form than a thing that is commonly used. Isn't that right?
It's both things still at the same time because you have all kind of customers, no? You have the main cafes, but then you have the little kiosco in a poor area of the town,
That
which
is true, yeah.
also have fileteado. And then
Yeah.
you have like a lot of different qualities of artwork and a range of prices. So you have
Yeah.
fileteadores for all the tastes
Yeah.
and the needs, let's say. The thing is, in the beginning, it was something super popular, and it was considered to be something like low, no? Like a lower people, no? Because all these people who were the drivers of the carts and the trucks, they were like Italian immigrants, like quite popular, not the more cool people, let's say, in the ways, in the eyes of the people who are in the world of art. So it was always considered like a lower art form, no?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was in the beginning, no?
Yeah, and that's what's actually what I meant by saying that before it was like the use was very popular because and because when you go to Buenos Aires and you walk the streets of Buenos Aires, you see fileteado, especially in the city center where you have all these traditional cafes which are very touristic as well. You know, there are touristic attractions often, and then when you go to the suburbs or to other neighborhoods, you will find as well fileteado much more simply made or with less strokes, with less decoration, but still you can find sign painting, right? So it's,
And with sign painting happens the same. So you can
yeah,
go downtown and find the old shops that had the gold leaf, and then you go to the suburbs and find the dirty shops where they paint with on whatever piece of metal they can find, and they do a fast work. It's the same exactly thing, no?
that's great.
And
Yeah.
that's the richness also, no, of this kind of crafts that you can be interesting for different kind of people, different kind of tastes. I remember I was working in the market, in the street market in San Telmo for years, and I was selling signs there for the tourists, and then there would come the guy who would be like a street vendor selling like bottles of water, and he asked me to paint a little sign for his with the prices, and at the same time I was working for the US Embassy, so it's like a huge wide range of customers you can get as long as you're willing, no? And then you
Yeah, for sure. So let's go back to the story of how you started here. So now we know exactly, or our listeners know what Fileteado Porteño is and why this art form is really important for the identity of a city. And you mentioned that you started doing this as a way of finding something creative to do while you were studying history, and then you had this first assignment with your teacher, Alfredo Genovese, who asked you to help him, create this artwork. And afterwards, you had this exam at your, at the university, and then you came home, and that was on the 19th of December of 2001. And what happened that day?
What happened that day? That was the day of the explosion of the biggest economical crisis of Argentina of the last 30, 40 years, let's say. I would say even 50 years. And so people make riots on the streets. They were sacking supermarkets in the suburbs and in the city. And at that night, the president called for, I don't know what's the word in English for estado de sitio. Like
Yeah, like you couldn't leave your house. You after 10 p.m. I think.
curfew,
Yeah,
something like a military curfew.
curfew, exactly.
Yeah,
So
so they
that
go
curfew.
for a military curfew.
Yeah,
People get out on the streets to protest against that. And then
yeah.
the next day there were more protests. People were killed on the street during the protests, and the president finally quit. And then we have like 5 presidents in a week and a half.
Oh,
So
crazy.
that was my first day of paid work in my life when I was 19 years old.
That's amazing. So you had that first experience, and what happened after that? Like you had your first paid job. Did that was a deciding moment where you said like, "Hey, I want to continue doing this and doing something I really enjoy, and at the same time making money with it," or how was that
It was
path for
a
you?
slow process, no? Because I was
Mm,
also starting the university
mm,
and living with my parents. I actually didn't need a lot of money. So after that first work with Alfredo, he asked me to help him more in a regular basis. So I was going for his classes once a week as a student. And then another day in the week, I was going to help him with different works. And then if there was a specific extra amount of work to do, I would go maybe more often. And at the same time, I was at the university studying history. And at the same time, I was going as some kind of assistant at the economic university, the economy university, for the classes for the beginners. There was this tipo historia social general en el CBC.
Okay, general history at the basic.
Similar to that subject, social history, but for specifically for economics. And one of my teachers of high school was the head of the cátedra there, so he had
Yeah.
our students, his students, helping there. So I was doing these three things at the same time, and painting more and working more with Alfredo. And then that year, 2002, I remember at the end of that year, I said, okay, I'm gonna quit the assisting at the economic university because it's too much. And slowly, I was having more work with Alfredo and started to sell little pieces or commissions on my own. I remember also at that time, my father was working at the Metrogas, the gas not the gas, it's gas, because gas
Yeah,
in
I think it's gas company. Well, yeah, like the heating
yeah,
provider. Yeah, I guess.
gas company. So he started to give cards, no, to the people that were going there. So I started to paint signs for these gasistas matriculados, no, the ones who would go and make the reparations on the houses for the gas leaking and these kind of things. So I started to make signs.
Excellent. So the craftsmen that were working for that company, they got this
No,
gift.
company is the main seller of gas on the city. They were not working for the company, but making fixes on the houses, and all the time you do that.
Ah,
You
okay. So
present-
craftsmen that were contractors, that they
Yeah,
were
yeah,
working
yeah. So you go
independently. Yeah.
there to the main company just to say, okay, I'll be doing this reparation in this house just to give
Yeah.
the fill paperwork. So my
Yeah.
father was working there, and he was giving my car to all these people coming and going, and I started to have a lot of signs for gasistas, people who work on electricity, plumbers, these kind of things. And then slowly I started also to go to markets, no, like street fairs or markets, and then also different events. I used to live in Almagro near the Abasto, which was one of the main food markets 120 years ago. Then it closed, and now it became like a shopping mall. And at that time, it reopened in 1998, so they were doing cultural activities around the area. So I started in 2003 to go to these activities, do some live painting. They were making fairs, and I was having a booth or a stand for selling some little pieces like a tango, cocina, kitchen, toilet, signs, smolitos, no? Smalls like 20 by 10,
Yeah.
25 by 15, these kind of sizes, which is a main income for fileteadores here.
Yeah,
And
because I guess it's also due to the fact that there's a lot of tourism to the city, and this is a very it's like the for export kind of like art piece, right? So the if you go to the most touristic markets in the city, you will find tons of fileteadores like Gustavo here, selling their artwork in the shape of small pieces of work that you can take home with different words like kitchen or love or things like that, which are really beautiful. Yeah,
no? Or you can do custom made also. I was doing
you
half of
can also.
the I was selling were the ones that I already painted, and the other half were people asking, "Oh, I want to write the name of this or the name of that or the address of the house," these kind of things, no? So I was like this, no, slowly going to the classes, doing the exams, etc., for a couple of years. But I was like starting to develop more this taste for the fileteado in a way, no? And when I finished university, which was around 2007, I started to properly go to the street market in San Telmo, which is like the main touristic market in the city. And at that time, it was you have like the antique fair in a square, but then it was growing with people like putting their fabric on the street, and on top of the fabric their artwork for selling, no? They were called manteros in a not nice way, no, a
Yeah,
despective way.
yeah.
And so I started there in 2007, no? And it was like in a couple of hours before police kicked you out because it was not allowed. You
Yeah.
would be there and sell a lot of signs, and it was amazing. And then the police would come, they tell you to leave. You make all the theater that you're packing, but then when the police walk away, you put it back and keep selling, and then they would come back because they made the whole turn on the market. So it would take them like 5 blocks or 7 blocks to walk on one direction and then come back. That was like another hour, hour and a
You
half.
were you were like the smuggler of your own art.
Yes, yes, but we were all like this at that moment. And so 2008, I started to go to this market. Then it slowly was accepted, but we have to fight for the space. There was always struggles and things. I remember I walked the other day. I still saw on the side of the street the paint mark that I did for showing my space. No, it's still there on San Telmo on the street. So it was like a long process and a lot of fights with the police, in not fights in the sense of fist fighting, but struggling, discussing, protesting, and then it was granted by a judge that the street market could be done in specific blocks on the city. And then in 2011, there was a new law, the city law for the markets, which legalized this long market where I was there, no? And so it slowly became more calmer. First we were on the floor, then we had like a table that we would make ourselves, no, with two easels and a piece of wood. And then at the end there was a provider who would make the whole structure. First like a guy who would just do it and charge you by the day, and then the structures at the end of my time at the market, they were provided by the government, and they were nice designs stands, no, super cool. So, but that was a process of 12 years.
Wow,
See?
it's super interesting to see that you started there. You started with selling these little pieces of work in smuggling your own art in like illegal markets on the street, and nowadays you have your own studio. You work for clients. You do custom work. You do big commissions. So how was the transition from that? From that standpoint of like selling your little art pieces in the streets to becoming more like a business and having the structure of a business as well. I guess you have also processes and you receive payments, you send invoices, right? So how was that transition for you as an artist and as a sign painter?
the proper transition for me, it started actually there on the street, because when I was working the way I told you, with this university studying painting, I
Yeah.
was doing good enough to be living with my parents and studying, no? And then when I started going to the street fair, it was a crazy time for tourism. Argentina was very cheap. Tourism was coming from all the world. It was crazy. Like that movement to go to the street market, even the way I was going in the beginning, it changed completely the whole equation, because suddenly I was selling a lot of works, having a lot of commissions. So I was the whole week painting to replace whatever I sold, and then to paint the commissions for people that were living. So that also gives you a good practice, because it's not that you have a piece and you can do it in 3 weeks or a month. You have to do everything with a nice quality and in a rush. So the street market was like a changing point, I would say.
Okay, I get it. So it wasn't only the fact that you saw proper income coming in, so proper money coming in through the work that you were doing, but you also trained yourself to work commercially for people who were leaving the
Whatever
city
request.
in 1 or 2 days. So you had very quick turnarounds, and that really trained your hand to perform under
Yeah.
pressure and do it properly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then at some point, in the last years, half of the things I was taking to the market, they were like empty signs, where I leave only the frame around. I leave the middle empty without words. So people would ask me, and I would paint there, and they would ask me in the morning. Then they go walk around and come back 3 4 hours later, and I would do
Right.
whatever they want, because a lot of time also people would say, I'm leaving tonight or I'm leaving tomorrow. And in the last times, the most of the pieces I was selling, they were those custom made during the same day. That was crazy. The thing is, what I thought about this, I love it because it was like explosion of work, but at the same time, I remember when we were still not legal, I went to try to enroll myself in the legal system of markets of the city. And then I saw all these guys like a hippie style, like 60, 70 years old, no, with the long hair and the beard. And, and I saw those guys there on the queue, and I said, I don't want this for me. I remember that clearly. So I went to this office of the city where you have to book yourself in the proper system. Said, no, 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 I'm not gonna do this, and I left. That was around 2009 or 10, and it's like I
So
realized,
you felt like the community around this type of fairs was not the community you want to be part of,
yes,
or
of course,
you didn't resonate with that,
no, no,
um,
at all.
and that was like, okay, no, perhaps this is not the place, the direction I should go.
I mean, not for the long term of my life. I saw these guys and I said, I don't want to be like this when I'm 60. I don't want to be in the street market when I'm 60 somehow. The thing is, when I started to go there, like a 90% of my income was from the Sundays. And what I thought at that point was, you can't depend just on what you sell on a Sunday market, because you have a bad day, or there's 2 rainy days and the market is not made in the month, and then what do you do? So I always work in a way that trying to make the income from the street market to become less important in the amount of income of my month, let's say. Some people, some fileteadores from that time, they are still going to the market. There's people in the market even from before me, 30 years there. I don't know. I don't understand how can you stand this rhythm of being every Sunday with rain, with a cold, with a heat. So I was all the time trying to make things, contacts, networking that would give me work besides the market, and the market too. And I was also using the market as a networking space, because there you have people from all around the world. So for me, what I realized, it was that it was not only important to sell a little baño sign, a toilet sign more, but also to give the business card and talk to the people. because you never knew who would pick it, no? And
Oh, that's such a big teachable moment, I think, for our listeners as well. Like this idea of like, perhaps this is not exactly what I'm gonna continue doing all my life, but being out there in the wild, showing your work, having your work spread out, having the opportunity to be to put your work in front of people and have those conversations. That's what the real value is
yeah,
actually.
yeah, yeah. Plus, you need
And you
to.
were able to leverage the contacts, also the international market that you were exposed to, which was like probably mostly tourism,
That's the
or
main thing, no?
yeah,
That it
yeah.
was the main touristic market with visitors from all around the world every Sunday of every year for years. So you never knew, and it's like people don't tell you who they are. Of course, unless someone likes to start bragging about himself, oh blah blah, I do this, I have that, blah blah. So then you receive messages on the website, on the email, saying, "Oh, hello, I saw you in the market. I do this. I would like to have that, etc." And then slowly, it's like for me, it was like a big place to get in touch with people. Besides the money itself, at some point it was like, okay, if I sell more or less, it's not gonna change me. But being there, people seeing me, people talking with people, especially when you do a work that is so uh, lonely because you're all the time on the studio painting yourself at home. At that time, I was living in a one monoambiente, one room place.
One room apartment,
I have
yeah.
this bed that becomes a couch, like a sofa cama. How is it called?
Like a sofa bed.
Sofa bed. Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, I had the sofa bed open. It was my bedroom. I had the sofa bed closed. It was my workshop. No. So
Amazing.
there, talking with people, it was like the most important thing. And actually, all my first trips to Europe, I am a middle class guy. My parents were workers on the gas company, Gas del
Yeah.
Estado, for the whole life. We were not rich. And at some point, I made my trips to Europe, my first trips to Europe, they were all done with contacts that I got from the market.
Oh, and I want to dive into that in a minute, but I think this is the perfect opportunity to show the work that you do. So you mentioned that you started with these small signs that you were selling at the fair, and then through that window that this place was for you, this market was for you, where you were, you know, like putting your work in front of people, you were making contacts with people, you started getting more or bigger assignments, right? And I believe this is one of them. I'm gonna share the screen. So now it's the perfect time to start our Art in Focus section, where we go over a piece of work that you have created, and we talk about it, we analyze it, we see what are the things that you love, what is the inspiration behind it. So tell me why you chose this specific piece of artwork that I have also noticed that is hanging on the wall right behind you.
Yes, yes, yes. That's one of my. It's most almost centerpiece on the wall. Let's say.
Excellent.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that one I liked a lot because it took me a lot of time first to. And when I'm talking a lot of time, it's not a couple of months. I started sketching that one in 2007.
Yeah.
First sketch, and you can see down there the work was finally painted in 2016. I
Wow. Okay.
remember when I studied with Alfredo, no, I told you it was around 2 years, 2 years and a half. I was going to
So
his
your first teacher.
my teacher, yes.
Yeah.
That was from 2001 till the middle of 2003. Then I started to work on my own, and then at some point in 2007, I said, "Okay, Alfredo, I'm gonna come back to your classes, not to paint. I just want to go there to sketch something, to have some time to sketch because
Yeah.
between university and the commissions, I didn't have time to do things for myself. So I remember I sketched this one first there, and this one has something particular. Volver is to come back.
Yeah.
It's a tango song, no? It's a classic tango from Gardel. And con la frente marchita, that's like a metaphor. The frente is the forehead here, and marchita is like wrinkled, no? Marchita is like when the flower dies.
Yeah, you're coming like defeated, like a little bit defeated out of,
Yeah,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is
you're coming back a little
older.
bit
It's
defeated.
basically it's
Yeah.
older with the wrinkles on your
Yeah, yeah. Ah, okay, okay. And
forehead.
Marchita, okay. I thought it was more like defeated, more like I'm coming back like
No, it's like the
that.
flower when it shrunk,
Yeah.
it becomes like this.
Oh, yeah.
So this just
So
means
the,
like you're coming back older, but in a nice
yeah,
and metaphoric way.
yeah.
So that's a song about the, the main character in the song coming back to Buenos Aires after years, after missing the city because he was having his crazy life in Europe, no? Something like this.
Oh yeah, because so Gardel, I love to talk about this with you because I know some parts of the story. Of course, I'm also from Argentina. I was born in Buenos Aires, and I know the story of Gardel. For instance, he was one of the most famous tango singers, and at some point he fled from Buenos Aires. He moved, I think, to Colombia or somewhere like this, and he
He was
was living.
mostly living and working in the States and
Okay, in
traveling
the
all
States.
around the world. But then he died tragically in a plane crash in Colombia.
Yeah.
But this
So
is
and
like a
then
topic on the tangos, no? The topic
yeah.
about the one who left the city and then have his crazy life somewhere else and then came back defeated after making wrong choices, no? These kind of
Yeah,
things in life. You have this
which
one as a
which
topic of
also
the
goes,
tangos.
yeah, which also goes back to this first element of the story of Fileteado Porteño that you mentioned in the beginning, which has to do with the immigration, with
También.
the fact that a lot of the citizens of the city are immigrants that came through the war in the beginning of the century. Because of the European war, they moved or they fled to Buenos Aires, and there was this feeling of like sorrow for the land that they left behind and starting something new in a completely new world for them. So there was always like a sub layer of sorrow or sadness, which is also represented in the tango
Tango.
songs and in the lyrics, and is then picked up by Fileteado Porteño, no?
Yes, plus the community, the Italian community, which was the biggest community in America besides the United States, after the United States, they were involved in the development of Fileteado, no? Like the main beginners were they were all Italian immigrants, although it's not an art form that was moved from Italy to Argentina, it's something that developed here with influences of decorative European art or architecture from the neoclassical architecture from the late 19th century, etc.
Yeah.
But the Italian community were there, and actually, like two of the main masters of the craft, I would say the two more important that we know and we have proper information and images of their works. One was an Italian immigrant, which is Carlos Carboni, the one that painted these one bars on the back, and then these two dragons are painted by Leon Untroy, who was a Polish immigrant. So the influence of the immigrants in the developing of Fileteado, but in general in the developing of the culture of the city of Buenos Aires and Argentina is completely undeniable. In this case, I chose to do something tango related. I don't like so much sometimes to do tango related stuff. I do it for work. I do commissions for tango associations, milongas, the tango dancers, because this is part of our work itself. But sometimes when I paint for me, I try to avoid it because it's too much like a stereotypical, no, of the
Yeah.
fileteado. It's like drinking mate. If I would be doing a tango painting on fileteado, drinking a mate, I would be the crazy
Look at
stereotypo.
this. I had prepared for you today,
Yes,
actually.
nice. So,
I
but in
brought
this
my
case,
mate.
I wanted to do something like this. And so I was trying to do some script letters, which I don't do so often, or I didn't do so often at that time. Then you have like the normal uppercase, lowercase, fileteado style letters for the second line, no?
So you mean this, right? This
Yes.
one.
Then you have like traditional elements, like the whole green frame is like traditional acanthus leaf, which are made in a much more complex way. The flowers, no, the five petal flowers with the shape of a heart, and the round flowers, which are the two more typical. And
Those you mean
no, no,
those, and
the
then
center ones, the center
the
ones.
center ones. Okay.
Yeah, you see the yellow flower is a 5 petal flower, and the shape of the petals is like a heart shaped somehow. You see, and then you have the Argentinian flag, and but there's one thing that I like to do, and I started to do that in the beginning when I was learning. Sometimes I look at my old works, and I see there much more freedom and crazy ideas that then when I started to develop the fileteado as a work, I started to become more square in a way, no? Knowing what to do, what would be good, what I can do fast and make customers happy. But
Yeah.
when I see my own works, maybe they are not technically so good, but I see a lot of nice, crazy ideas. So one thing I was doing, and I did here too, and this is why I really love this work, was to combine like fileteado with something more narrative and elements that were more like comic book characters. See? Because normally you have in a fileteado work the frame, the green frame, and an inside part where you put the lettering or maybe a landscape. But it's just a flat work, no? Just some saying, some image, and that's all. And in this case, what I was doing is to have different figurative elements working with the frame itself. So in this case, no, what you can see is you have the level of the fileteado itself, but then on the first row, closer to the viewer, you have the guy there, no? Which is like this, he can be Gardel, but he's giving the back to us. So he's coming back to the city.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he's in the first row with all his old-fashioned suitcase. Like it could be Humphrey Bogart also, no sé.
Oh, yeah.
Something in between Humphrey Bogart and the Maltese Hawk and Gardel. And then you have the level of the fileteado. And then on the background, you have the obelisco. See?
Which
The obelisco.
the obelisk is the one of the icons of Buenos Aires, right? It's one of the how will you call it? Yeah, the icons,
Yes, yes.
the
It's like one of
iconic
the landmarks.
landmarks. Yeah.
There in the downtown of the city, in the crossing of the two main avenues of the downtown. So it's something that I don't know if it's beautiful, but it is. And actually, it can be Gardel because Gardel died 1 year before the obelisk was built. So
Look
this
at
is
that.
not Gardel now. I'm realizing that. So you have that one in the back. So in this way, no, it's like you're having like a vanishing point, and it gives deepness to the work, and it gives like a storytelling level. It's not just a sign with a word, with a frame and a nicely done frame and word, but you're playing on the storytelling level. So I love to do these kind of things. They are much harder. It's much more difficult to paint like human figures, etc., to think about these kind of works. But I really love them because it mixes like comic books, which are one of my real passions, and the fileteado, which is another passion and my work. So that's why I chose this one to talk about or discuss or tell you these kind of things about this work specifically.
I love it. Yes, and as you said, it adds a new layer of meaning to everything, right? So you wonder who is that person standing there. You have the landmark of Buenos Aires there, and I wonder what are some of the things I can totally understand first this concept or this feeling that you have around the first pieces of work that you created, because as you become more professional in your craft, you tend to, I speak about like rows, you tend to know the ways that take you to a successful result. So you
Yeah.
always take kind of like the same roads that you already know. And you in the very beginning, you tend to like take all of the roads because you don't know which one is going to take you to the successful result. And then in that discovery or in that exploration, you discover things, right? Like for instance, this piece of work. I wonder what are some of the elements here that are very characteristic of fileteado, if you can tell us.
It's the ones I was telling you. Do you see my screen here, or you have to move the?
No, it's good. I see it here. But when it comes to, for instance, when it comes to the craft and creating this artwork,
Yes.
I know that you are starting first with the sketch, right? So you first sketch the
First,
whole
you make a
thing.
little sketch. Like
Yeah,
this piece of artwork is like 80 centimeters by 40.
yeah,
So maybe I start with a 8 by 4 centimeters sketch. No, like one or two sketches like this, and then after I have the main idea, maybe I make a second sketch more detailed, and then I do the final drawing in a piece of ¿cómo se llama? Tracing paper,
yeah.
translucent tracing paper. See? So usually what we have is what I was telling you before, no? Like a main frame, which is the outside frame with the greens. Then you have an internal level where you put the lettering. And then in this case, we have also this the obelisk on the figures, etc. So I think I made choose the main fileteado, and then I draw in a piece of paper aside the guy, the character. And I remember I have a sketch somewhere there in my files, like to draw the hat. It
Yeah.
took me a lot of time and a lot of sketches to get the right shape of the hat seen from the back. It was quite difficult to do that. Then we usually make from tracing paper, we make a pounce pattern, see? Which is pouncing with a needle, the drawing, we fold it because it's symmetrical, so we draw one half, we fold the paper, we pounce, and then it's transferred with a chalk powder. And then we work with enamels, fileteado brushes, which are long brushes, like less heavy in the amount of results than the sign painters brushes, because you need to go from the thick to the thin elements. Not you need to do the elements going from thick to thin in the curves. So the sign painting brushes, sometimes they have too much hair, too much results, so it's difficult to do
They're
that.
a bit more rigid, or
Yeah. It's
yeah.
better. For block lettering are amazing, for the casuals too, but for the scroll work, they are not ideal. So we have a specific maker of brushes here in Argentina that is a family that have been doing this since 1940s. And there we work with several layers of a flat color, and then shadows, proper shadows, drop shadows, which are made with a mixture of varnish and black, like a translucent tint, which we call Chapin, like the country, but with Y. And then we do lights and highlights. See, that's the technical process of a work.
Yeah, so it seems that the creation, and thank you so much for sharing this. I'm gonna stop sharing the screen so that we can continue chatting. Thank you for sharing this piece of work. And I'm thinking that, creating a piece of Fileteado Porteño takes a fair amount of time. Not the sketching part. I was in your studio when I visited you in Buenos Aires, and it seems that the sketch is very rough and very general. It gives you a general idea of what the piece is going to be, especially with your experience, knowing, having your roads and knowing what are the roads that take you to
I think we're gonna end up already.
Yes. So the sketch is very rough, but when it comes to the execution, it seems that you have a lot of different brushes, a lot of different. You have a lot of different layers to create the artwork itself, right? There is the shadows, the drop shadow, the highlights, the decoration inside, outside. So I wonder, when it comes to working professionally with clients, what are some of the things that you had to put in place so that the time that you spend creating the artwork pays off, right? As a business owner, you mentioned that from that first experience of being at the fair and selling your work and having this exposure and creating that like client base for yourself, you started working more professionally, or you started working for big commissions, right? So not only creating a small sign, but you're creating the facade of a restaurant, or you're creating 100 custom
Piece
painted
for an event.
cars
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for the U.S. Embassy. So how do you find, the balance between the craft and making it to the level of
Profitable.
of
Yeah.
good
It's
good
not easy. I mean, maybe not in the beginning, but like maybe 10, 15 years ago, with already a decade of experience, at some point at the end of the work, you always say, ah, I should have charged 10% more or 20% more. It's like, it's okay what I'm charging, but I could have charged more. You always have a little bit of this feeling. The thing is, with time, you get to understand when to stop. No, it's like what you were saying before about the paths. No, you want to take all the paths at the same time, and then in the beginning you want to put all the effects and all the decorations and all the sheets in every work, and then at some point you need to you understand, no, what's the amount due to do to make it look perfect or super good without
in the
overdoing
time
it.
given.
Yeah,
In the
yeah, yeah.
time given, yeah.
Reach the and to reach the schedule, no, the deadline. And then I have works like that one. For example, this one that we were looking at the Volver. Now I'm just thinking about this. Normally I do one proper shadow, a darker tone of the shadow inside the elements, and then the drop shadow. It's three. In this Volver, it has a third proper shadow. And then I do a light and highlight. And in the Volver, I did a light highlight. You're not going to notice this because it's very little there on the screen, but I did a light, a highlight, and a high highlight. No sé, it's like a third
So over
step.
there, you mean,
Yes.
right? So
So,
you have the drop shadow, which is the darker red tone here. Then you have the volume, which will
see,
be this,
we call
and
it
then you
body.
have you have those
Different.
highlights.
Yes. But even the same with the on the green, wherever you see the lights. So usually when I want to work more detail and add more things and make it even more crazy, it's my works. When I'm doing the commercial work, I know exactly when to stop. That's one very important thing, no? And then it's like you have to think about a lot of different elements when you're making your budget, no? You think about the material, the kind of paint you're gonna use, if it's acrylics or enamels, which is gonna dry faster or slower, the size of the work itself, the amount of work, because it's not the same to do like a 1 meter by 1 meter piece if you have to write just one or two words, or 1 meter by 1 meter piece where you have to paint a landscape, or where you have to paint like a, no sé, a phrase of the Martin Fierro, no? So that's
Yeah.
completely different, no? Some people sometimes they say, I charge by the square meter. By the square meter, it's not representative of the work itself, no? Because you have different levels of complex, no, complexity levels, no, which might take you more time or less time. So you think about this, you think about the customer itself, no. You're not gonna charge the same to the local guy in the little kiosco than to a big company. Although I try to have like a regular price, no, like, and I know my minimums that I can't not go under, because
Yeah.
then it would not be profitable. And then sometimes you get carried away anyway and do extra things. It's like, this is impossible because it's still an art. I still, at least I consider this an art. So at some point, even if you say, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then you look at this and say, oh, okay, I have
Yeah.
a couple of more hours before delivery. Okay, I'm gonna add something extra.
Yeah.
But and then you
I
think
would,
about the time itself, no? In
for
the
sure.
in the in the work that I do on the studio, I'm more relaxed, because when you're working in the studio, I might have like several signs to do. Maybe I'm painting a big sign for a facade, but I'm also painting a smaller thing, or I'm painting an object, and I can do all the things at the same time, no? So basically, I'm one day of a studio working on 7 or 8 pieces at the same time all together. One can be a piece of metal, one can be a wood, one can be an object, one can be a bottle, one can be something on paper that then we're gonna work digital to delivery in a digital way. And then for the facades, for the shop windows, we try to think about the amount of days it will take us. in order to charge. So we basically charge by the work and by the day, and also thinking the distance and the trip that I would need to do. Because one thing is if I have something which is like 10 minutes, 15, half an hour in the metro. Another thing is when I need to go to San Isidro or the suburbs, and then it's like 2 hours, no, to go and 2 hours to come back, plus the day of work.
For sure.
So you need to think about a lot of things at the same time, no?
Yeah. And I'm thinking like a client or a restaurant that comes to you and asks you like, hey, we would love to make the facade or our shop window with fileteado, which looks amazing. If you have ever seen a shop window with fileteado, it's really beautiful. It's really a work of art, and it really dresses up the place, right? Now, I can imagine that a business owner is thinking like, okay, I'm coming to you, Gustavo. You send me this offer with this pricing for painting the name of my bar in the window or in the facade, right? And then I have this other offer from a vinyl shop who will also do the same, or they will also glue the name of my bar in the front of the facade of the bar, and it's a very small amount in comparison to your offer. So what are some of the ways in which you can explain the value of your work to clients? And I think this is especially useful for our listeners, because I think something specifically about our craft or our discipline is that we are still doing work that we enjoy and that we love and that we enjoy doing, that we will be doing anyways, right? And I think for us, it's very hard to charge for it because we feel like we are ripping off our clients because we will be doing it anyway. So why would I charge you for it, right? So I wonder, I'm always asking this question of like, how do you explain the value of your work to a potential client? And in your case, where you are creating a custom piece of work for a shop that is going to stay there for a long time, what are some of the things or the lines that you use?
I think that when someone approaches us asking for a fileteado, it's like you don't need to explain so much because they already want this specifically and they already want us to do it, no? They want something hand painted. This is the way it is, no? It's like you don't need to do a lot of explanations. Sometimes they come with us directly, so they want specifically our work. They tell me, okay, I saw your work, we love your work, etc. Sometimes you realize that they are looking for prices among other fileteadores, and that becomes a little bit harder because you have a lot of different ranges of quality and prices, and sometimes people they don't see the difference. No, they just see this fancy, colorful thingy that is gonna be there, but not noticing the quality of the work. So I explain a lot about the kind of work we do, how do we protect the work for making it lasting. No, like I try to go more on the technical part of why my work is this and the other guy is half, because I'm gonna work twice the time and you're gonna have it for 10 times more enduring on your shop. If you do it with a less quality work, a less quality paint, then in a year you're gonna be complaining because it will start to peel off, etc. But it's like people who gets in touch with us nowadays, they basically want our work, not just a fileteado. See? They want a Ferrari fileteados. And I think that's the work we were doing for 15 years, 20 years of trying to get more known as a brand, if you want. I would say maybe it's too much. And then there's the thing about that the hand paint work is not replaced by and especially the fileteado. Because sometimes, and especially what happened here in the 80s, 90s, and worldwide, was that when the vinyl cut letters came, they killed a little bit the industry for the sign painters. But we are not sign painters. We are fileteadores. That's why if you find, I say I'm a fileteador and a sign painter. That's a complete two different things.
Yeah.
Although fileteadores, we make sign painting too, but then it's more difficult when you find sign painters here doing fileteado. You can understand because they are usually horrible. But it's a complete different thing. So the fileteado the style itself, the kind of scrolls, it's not easy replaced by the vinyl plot. Maybe now that you have much more quality on the printing and much more quality on the digital work itself, you can do it. But it's not as easy to replace the fileteado
Yeah.
work itself.
Yeah, and I think it's you mentioned something really important there, which is you have created a brand for yourself. So you have created a name for yourself, and for some specific clients, having you do the work or having you paint the facade of that bar or that restaurant has an additional value, and they are willing to pay for that. And I think that's also a learning, a teachable opportunity for our listeners, which is like, there's a lot of people who do lettering. There's a lot of people who can do illustration very well, but you have to create that space where you are the only one doing the work that you do, where people come to you because they want you to do the work and they don't want another illustrator or AI doing the work. They want you to execute it because they want to be able to say that you created that for them. So I think that's not a minor detail. When you have created a personal brand for yourself, that already starts to pay off in terms of the clients that come to you and in terms of how much you're able also to charge for it.
Yeah, yeah, of course. But this is a long-term process, no?
For
It's
sure, yeah.
not only about doing something beautiful, but how to show it, how to sell it in the nicer way, no? Of selling it, no? It's just
For sure.
you need to know both things, no? The work, the quality, the technique, but also the marketing and the techniques for painting, but the techniques for selling your work. It's both things important, and both things you need to focus. And in this case, well, you knew Nina, my wife, and Nina is working a lot on that in the last 8 years, 9 years since we met. No, she's specialized in marketing, so all her knowledge when she came to live, she's from Russia. She came to live with me in Argentina in 2017. So she started to put a lot of her knowledge of her field into developing us more, no, like as a brand, and that paid off a lot.
Yeah, 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 I think so. And also, I think that in your case, you're saying that you met your wife and she also helped you with that part of the business. But I think that that is applicable for anybody listening, even if you don't have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a partner who
But
is
you need
a
to find
well-known.
someone who has this knowledge and can help you to develop this. Yeah, yeah,
For
yeah.
sure. Or you can start paying attention to that because that is really what will make the difference between you having success with what you're doing and perhaps, having to quit and go get some other job out there. The other thing that I wanted to ask as we are starting to wrap up this episode, you create work that is it has your signature, it has your brand. It is made by you by hand. What are the things, or how do you start thinking about scaling this? How do you start thinking about detaching from the business and that the business doesn't depend on you only? Because you know what happens when, for all of us, we love doing the work, so we keep on doing the work as long as we can keep doing the work. But things can happen. You can get injured, or you may have a period where you cannot just execute the work. So what happens with the business in that time? Is this something that you have started to think about? Is something that you have a backup for? You have already something in place and you have like people painting for you, or how do you go about this?
Yes, we are thinking about this. It's mostly Nina who's thinking about that. No, it's like I think I'm indestructible and I would paint my whole life. No, but we have, for example, now an assistant. We're basically working with two other painters nowadays. We have an assistant that is coming for the last 5 years, and one way in which we can like delegate,
Yeah.
no? In which we can delegate part of the work is the beginning of the process of painting. See, this thing, it can be done by someone else in the work itself, no? So we have one assistant, Juan. He's coming once a week. So basically what I do is I made a sketch, I made a pattern, very detailed, not rough, not fast, very detailed. So he comes, he pounces and makes transfers and starts the work, no? The flat colors. So maybe the flat colors, sometimes if we're more in a rush, the shadows. And then I come to do lights and highlights, because there in the touches of lights and highlights is where you see more the hand of, like, a trained guy can just copy the basic flat colors of the structure of the work. But then it's like your proper hand is gonna be visible in the design of the whole piece, and in the touches and the way you do the touches of lights and highlights. So for me, those are the two key moments to recognize the artist, no? Maybe in the color combination too, but this can be fixed with just sending some images and saying, okay, this has to be painted this way, that way. So we have an assistant that helps us when we're once a week. Even if I don't have anything or if I don't have a specific work, I give him something to do just to advance for me, something for myself, whatever, but just to have someone helping us. Of course, you need to deal a lot with yourself to do this, because nobody paints the things the same way you do it. And then in the beginning, I was more like unsatisfied, and then I learned that it's okay. It's gonna look nice at the end. It's gonna look good, and we're gonna make the work faster. Then we have another assistant that helps us with the sign painting, because we also do, besides the fileteado work, just sign painting regular way, like one color, two colors, gold thief work. So we have another guy who helps us with the sign painting work because he's more neat. So in this case, he helps more with the double coating, because a lot of works you need to do two coats. So I go do, maybe he helps transferring and then double coating. And that's a way you can save some time and make it a little bit bigger. Then whatever we're talking with Nina is we should reach a moment in which you just do the sketch of a big mural work and coordinate the work from your home office, no sé. But I don't know, I think that's more my wife's dreams, Nina's dream about reaching this point.
Yeah, you having more time to hang around with them.
I know, I know, but in
yeah,
the
the
sense
family.
of
Yeah.
getting into this level, but still want to paint.
Yeah,
That's the
for
thing,
sure.
no? It's like
And I think,
I'm still a painter. I'm still an artist. I want to get my hands dirty,
yeah,
and it's not easy. And we were saying even it's not easy with like it's like Ferrari fileteados. I'm there. It's there. Everything, no? Maybe with sign painting, it's a little bit less personal sometimes. But the fileteado itself is like, it's something unique. Each piece you do is completely unique. With the sign painting works, or the sign painting commissions, sometimes I don't do anything, no? In the sense of, it's different.
executing.
This this can be interesting, because usually when I work with fileteado, I work straight with the owner of the shop. No, it's the owner of the shop calls you and say, "Oh, I have this bar, I have this tattoo shop, I have this barber shop, and I want to paint this and that." Then you discuss with the guy, you give the budget, you make the sketches, etc. It's a longer process for the fileteado work, because you need to do the whole thing. Sometimes economically I enjoy more, and sometimes in my mind on the thinking process I enjoy more the sign painting, because I'm mostly contacted now by franchises or by design agencies that works on the gastronomic field. So they give me everything wrapped up. They just call me and they told me, okay, we are opening this shop. This is the logo. We have 4 walls. This is going to be a wooden wall. This is a brick wall. We need to paint this on this size with this color there and with that color there. So I don't have to think. And sometimes it's even better because you don't work with the customer directly. So for the agency, you are just one little part of a much bigger budget. And you can even charge better when you work with the agency than when you do the fileteado work straight negotiating with the customer. So we think that the sign painting work can be escalated more that way. No?
Yeah.
In assistance where you can oversee the whole process, be there in the beginning, at the end, etc. Because it's a little bit less personal, and then unless they want like a commission, custom-made piece of lettering to be painted somewhere. So that's one way we're trying, no, working with
Yeah.
people, and then we're thinking about having all these kind of how do you call it, the income from passive income, eso, ahí va.
Passive income. Yeah.
¿No? So we're trying to go into this in terms of developing different products that we can have and sell through the website, like maybe prints, maybe start having a series of screen prints, limited edition of our works. We're designing now like delantal, like an apron with a pocket with a screen printed work. We're having the online course also, no? Because we have a huge teaching activity in Buenos Aires, no? Besides our regular income, we have the income of the works, of the commissions, and the things we sell, and the shop windows, etc. This one, some months we have more, some months we have less. But our main basic regular income comes from teaching. And we teach here. I have like around 30 to 40 students every month in real life classes in Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
And so we do like introduction to fileteado workshops of 3 months. From time to time, we do like casuals or block lettering introduction workshops of 2 months. Then we have regular students coming here every Tuesday and Saturday to do their own fileteado works, and I just guide them on the classes. And then we have tourists coming to do like 1 or 2 hours special classes, like or visits to the studio where I make demonstrations. So we have a whole thing about teaching, no, the craft. And then we created this online course, which is also part of that, no, because all the lessons are recorded. We recorded like a professionally with a specific cinema makers producing company with a lot of nice. They put all kind of lights and cameras in the studio, so we were recording 5 days this. So that's also a way to get some passive income.
For sure.
People
Yeah.
spreading the fileteado, to make the fileteado available for people in the provinces of Argentina, but in other countries all around the world, because we have students from all around the world, and they have the pre-recorded lessons. They can do it on their own pace. It's not domestica. It's much more like real life contact with the students.
Yeah, and also that's also a great way of like, as we were talking in the beginning, it's a way of scaling you as a person, as the teacher, instead of having someone coming there where you have to be present. And the same can happen with your assignments, right? And I think it's so important what you said, that it has to start with like the mindset shift of saying like, okay, first I need to accept that the work is not gonna be done exactly like I wanted. It's perhaps gonna be done 80% as I wanted, but it's still, it's still good. And it's fine, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to do it. If someone doesn't help me do this, I wouldn't be able to execute it.
It took me
So
a couple
first,
of years to accept that. It was
yeah,
not
for sure.
easy. It was
I
not
think
easy
I
at all.
think
But
no, I totally get it, and so the one that one part is an important element, and then there's the other element which has to do of recognizing or identifying what are the parts of the process that I necessarily need to do in order to look like my work, and what are the parts of the process that can be done by someone else, that can be replicated by someone else, and no one would notice, and that's also another a big realization for an artist. We think that no one can do it like we do it, but there's for sure parts of, and that's probably true. And as you get someone helping you do the work, you will probably have to give up some level of personalization or level of signature, personal signature of yours, but at the same time realizing that there's parts of the process that are very very regular, and you don't make it in any special way, like scanning, in my case, scanning my sketches. Anybody can do it, or digitizing the first letters. Anybody can do it, really. Then, of course, there is the detail and knowing the proportions, and as you said in your case, is adding the
The painting is a little
highlight.
bit more specific, I think, than that.
In what?
With the painting is much more specific
For
because
sure, yeah.
stroke is the stroke. It's a brush stroke. It depends on the person. It's not
Yeah.
just putting the paper on the scan. That's a
Yeah.
mechanical part, no? Like in
Yeah.
this case, for example, would be the pouncing.
The pouncing,
The
yeah.
pouncing
Yeah.
would be closer to the scanning in a way,
Yeah.
no? Pouncing and
Yeah, for
transfer.
sure. For
But
sure.
then the hand is the hand. But for example, in my last trips to Europe, during my last trips to Europe, Nina, my wife, she was painting some commissions with our assistant. And I was there and I just sent the drawing by a picture on the mobile. They just blow it up to the size and they did a full work. And it was
Amazing.
okay. And they
Yeah.
did also some sign painting works. For the sign painting works, I'm not even needed, let's
Yeah.
say, unless it's a gold leaf. No one can do gold leaf here. But if I'm not there, but if it's just paint on a wall, it's okay. But and we also can fulfill the customers, no, because they can't wait
Yeah,
for me to come back or whatever.
for sure.
So we're fine with them. They're happy, and the work is okay. Sí, sí, sí.
Thank you, Gustavo, for sharing that. I think it's such an important thing to discuss. I think for all of us artists who start, doing the work ourselves, and at some point when you turn that into a business and you have other occupations, you have family, friends, you have other things to do in life besides work. You have to start thinking about this, and yes, and I think that's the tough part, like to understand, okay, how can I scale this? How can I turn this into a business that works on its own? And I don't necessarily have to be there, like painting each stroke, drawing each drawing to actually make it work. So that's super helpful for our listeners, and also for myself to remind me that, hey,
It
you
can
can
be
you
done.
can
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
can,
You
you
can
can be
always get
done.
an extra assistant.
So to wrap up the episode, what are some of the things that make you excited about the world of sign painting and more specifically Fileteado Porteño right now in this moment where we are today?
I love to be painting. It's like 25 years ago, I couldn't have imagined that I would be during making a life out of painting, no? And it's my whole life. It's made out of the fileteado, the work, and that decision I did of taking that summer course in 2001. Like my whole life was shaped after that decision in a way, no? I even met Nina thanks to Fileteado, so the family, the work, the trips, everything I did was thanks to the Fileteado. So I'm quite grateful to have chosen that in the beginning. And then if you ask me about excitement in the work, etc., uh, there's one thing I love more to do out of all the possible works and the possible commissions we have, which is paint for the traditional bars of Buenos Aires. It's like I really love the old bars and I really love the city. That's why we never move anywhere else. I make my trips, I come back, I always want to come back, I always want to volver. And the fileteado is a style that started on the streets. See, nowadays it's not done anymore on the trucks and the cart and the buses a little bit, but it's not there on the transportation except for collectors or associations of collectors of trucks and carts and countryside associations. So I love to paint on the street. I love to paint shop windows and I love to paint the old traditional bars because I know these places are going to be there forever. I can paint thousands of shops and most of the shops that they are opening now, they can last 1 year, 2, 3, maybe 5 years, and a lot of them are going to disappear. It's just word that comes and goes. But a bar that is there for 80 years, we know it's going to be there for 80 more years. and your work is going to be there on that bar, which is part of the history of the city, and it's going to become part of the daily landscape of the city that you love. No, this is what I mostly enjoy, to have the chance. The Fileteado gives me the chance of becoming part of the daily landscape of the people in the street. Whatever they're gonna see every day, like a worker going to the metro, going to the underground, is gonna see these bars, these shops that we're painting, and it's gonna be a little bit of color that maybe makes a little bit happier the everyday life. But being part of that is what I really love about the work that I do.
Thank you, Gustavo. This is beautiful. And it's been such an interesting conversation with you. To wrap up each episode, we do a closing and fun game. The game is that I start a phrase and you complete it. It's a very short phrase that you can complete it as you wish. And there are 5 phrases. Are you ready?
Dale.
So in my workshop, there's always...
Coffee.
At home, I always get in trouble for...
I never get in trouble at home.
Okay, great.
I'm a nice guy.
One thing I never get tired of is...
Drawing. Doodling.
If I weren't painting signs, I would be...
I think I will be a history teacher.
Right now is the perfect moment to...
Start working with the deadline works that I need to deliver tonight or tomorrow.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Gustavo. Where can people find you if they look up for you on the internet, on social media?
Everything is Ferrari Fileteados. The social media, or ferrarifileteados.com for the website, and learnfileteado.com for the online course. Those are...
Excellent. We're going to put all the links to our show notes so that you can find Gustavo's courses, Gustavo's website, and Gustavo's social media accounts. Thank you again, Gustavo. And to everybody listening, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who might enjoy it as well. Be sure to follow us on YouTube and on this podcast. And I will see you on the next episode of Open Studio.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.